Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidK80. Once again, that's SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
First show of November, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's an Apple iTunes Store or Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch any of our live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. If you miss any of our shows, that's okay. They're in the archive section. Just go look for them. You can watch and listen to them at your own leisure. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms. There's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to World Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. If you want to follow War Media, you can do so at WARR Media. That's at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. And thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And you can catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. And we're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Lakeena, when you're stuck in a situation that things are not going your way, what do you tend to do? Be honest.
Let a good scream, maybe a couple of swear words, and maybe just have a little, watch a scary movie, watch some comedy, and then maybe watch some old episodes, some classic sitcoms from back in the day. I won't say, I don't want to reveal my age, but yeah, that's sort of like my way of kind of letting out some grievances.
But usually you tend to reflect back, correct? You flash back in time, or as Huey Lewis in the News, one of my favorite bands of all time, said in the 1986 movie Back to the Future, going back in time.
Yes.
Watching the Bears game yesterday, watching Jimmy Garoppolo running his little self for 2 touchdown scores. He looked like he had his own inner Steve Young in him yesterday as the 49ers defeated the Chicago Bears. We'll dive more deeper into that game in just a moment, 33-22. Jimmy Garoppolo looked like Steve Young on steroids. Or just Steve Young raw coming out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before he went to the 49ers. For you younger folks listening, go do your research. Now, also, on the flip side, when you're stuck in a situation that you don't like, that you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole of, you tend to look towards the future.
Sure.
On the flip side for the Chicago Bears, that's my thoughts on rookie quarterback Justin Fields. As we told you guys, this is a season of development for him because he's a rookie. And hopefully by the end of the year, he's better than what he is right now. Yesterday, we saw signs of him getting better, especially in the passing game. We all know how athletic he is, including on that unbelievable 22-yard touchdown run to start the fourth quarter. So I am hopeful for the Bears' future. But on the flip side, when you're stuck in a situation, you also have to deal with reality. Reality is, as we told you guys, the Bears are not a playoff team. The Bears' defense, they missed Khalil Mack more than we thought they would yesterday. Robert Quinn showed up, but not enough. Alec Ogletree was on the field, but he didn't make any impact plays. Eddie Jackson, the safety, who's been maligned all season long, he went out with a hamstring injury at the second play of the game, did not return. Lakeena, even though I said Jalen Johnson, their star defensive cornerback, is the best secondary player on the Bears, they really missed Eddie Jackson yesterday. All I'm saying is this. For you Bears fans, I know it's frustrating. I know that it's confusing. But you have to look towards the future and come to the reality that this Bears team, as we said for weeks now, they're not a playoff team. They're barely mediocre at that. It's all about the future. Now, the upper heads at Hallis Hall are not going to tell you this because they want you to come to the games and support them no matter what, as so many of you do. But reality is this. When you're stuck in mediocrity, you're stuck in NFL hell, especially in this salary cap league, you need to reevaluate some things. And yesterday just reaffirmed that for yours truly.
Well, I mean, look, for me, like, look, I actually was not watching the game, admittedly. I did not watch most of this game. I kind of kept it kind of like in the background, but look, they had a great start. The Bears did. Look, Field did. Justin Fields things. He rushed for over 100 yards. He passed for 175. Had a touchdown, had a rushing touchdown. That great play, but late. He kind of showed like a rookie, what a rookie would look, that interception that kind of ended the game. Khalil Herbert, moved the ball well. A-Rob had some drops, during a movie, did what he needed to do. Jesse James, that was a touchdown. That was the only touchdown pass that Fields had was to him. But unfortunately, the defense, Khalil Mack, you miss him, and yes, you miss A. Jackson, but A. Jackson wasn't, has been mostly bad than good, and also too, even with Khalil Mack out there, they gave up a lot. The defense gave up a lot of long rushing drives. I mean, look, Elijah Mitchell rushed for 137 yards. Deebo Samuel looked like the Deebo Samuel, the Pro Bowler that we've seen from him, with the 49ers. So, look, we saw a whole lot of that. And look, the 49ers, if you're the 49ers, this is the kind of game you needed yesterday because of some of the for morale. As for the Bears, I mean, look, they are who you thought they were. I'm going to keep saying that too, over and over again. 0 sacks, 0 punts the 49ers had. There was a little pressure on Garoppolo. So look, Garoppolo did look like that raw, Steve Young, fresh out of Tampa. So, for me, look, we saw what we saw. The Bears are terrible, and look, it is what it is. I know people thought that, oh well, that's a winnable game, and blah blah blah. Well, I guess it wasn't.
You're listening to Second City Sports right here, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Second City Sports as we review the Bears' 33-22 loss to the 49ers on the lakefront yesterday. Shout out to our good friend Armando. He says that the 49ers made halftime adjustments. The Bears did not. That's what it came down to, Lakeena. The Bears were putting field goals on the board. The 49ers in the second half were putting up touchdowns. If you want to make a comment on any of our topics during today's show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up and running for you. But if you decide to troll, do something stupid like that stupid fan on the Bulls post-game live show on Saturday, Lakeena will give you the Bill Lane beer boot.
Okay. Good everybody.
We'll get into that later.
Yes.
Getting back to the Chicago Bears, Lakeena. Like you said, Elijah Mitchell, as one-time Chicago sports talk show host Dan McNeil said he had an Edgar Bennett game. For those of you who don't know, Edgar Bennett had a game of his life back in 1994 during that ugly Monday Night Football game on Halloween, no doubt, in 1994, where Dick Butkus' number was retired. And Edgar Bennett ran all over the Bears. He was a member of the Green Bay Packers. He was actually a member of the Bears in 98, but his career was over after that. But Elijah Mitchell, as you mentioned, did his thing yesterday. Deebo Samuel showed up in the receiving department yesterday, 6 catches for 171 yards. And the 49ers, as our good buddy Armando said, they made adjustments in the second half, and the Bears didn't. And so you could tell that the pressure was on head coach Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers. Now, Chris Tabor on the flip side for the Chicago Bears didn't actually do a bad job. It's just the defense decided not to show up. I said on Friday, looking at that, I thought this game was going to end in a tie. I was half kidding, but I thought the Bears would do what they did offensively as far as putting up points on the board. Now, they only put up 2 touchdowns for the whole game, but their offense was moving, especially in the first half. But they left some points on the board, in my opinion, that should have been 6 instead of 3s.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of points on the board, and look, I think on both sides. I mean, look, Cairo Santos missed that the extra point after that great, rushing touchdown by Fields. I mean,
yeah,
and that kind of was sort of like turned the tide of that game, and also Joe Sly, missed a field goal and also an extra point. So there was a lot of missed opportunities on both sides to kind of put this game away, and you feel. It kind of feel like, you hear Justin Fields' comments after the show, after the game, I should say, and he said, well, having that negative there, that really, he felt a little bit different. He felt, more rejuvenated, but then, nothing really changed. So, that's just a weird how that goes. But you listen to you listen to what some of the comments, and also Nagy is loved there. So I think for folks say, well, they don't like Nagy very much. Maybe Fields doesn't like Nagy very much, but everyone else does. If you heard Darnell Moody's comments, he missed me on the sideline. So Coach Tabor did what he could, but you can kind of tell that, look, again, know your personnel. I think that was the key. Like the 49ers are a little bit more talented than the Bears right now. And look, you hear, I've been listening to sports radio on both stations, and you hear folks say, well, let's trade people. Like, well, look, we'll get to a big blockbuster trade that happened on our second segment, but that just happened about an hour ago. But who are you going to get? I mean, if you're A-Rob's agent, you're Allen Robinson's agent, you're probably calling, your agent and saying, hey, get me out of here. You'll find somebody. Hicks is over 30 and has had injury issues. So no one's going to trade for him either. So, and David Montgomery, some people say maybe David Montgomery, well, again, he's still hurt right now. And, are you going to get a second round pick or a first round? You don't have a first rounder next year. So, look, we might see the same Bears team on Wednesday afternoon. So we get ready, folks.
Taking a look at the Bears numbers offensively from yesterday, Justin Fields 19 of 27, 175 yards, a touchdown in the pick. In the rushing department, Justin Fields had 10 carries for 103 yards in that dynamic run, as we referred to a moment ago. Khalil Herbert, 23 carries, 72 yards. The 49ers, I believe, did a great job on him, especially in the second half in stopping the run. Damian Williams, 2 carries for -3 yards. He left the game early with an injury. In the receiving department, Darnell Mooney had 6 catches for 64 yards. Jesse James, 3 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. Marquise Goodwin, 2 catches for 32 yards against his former team. Cole Kmet, is nice to see a tight end sighting, folks. Cole Kmet had 3 catches for 24 yards. Allen Robinson, 3 catches for 21 yards. Lakeena, another thing that I was encouraged about yesterday, I've been begging for this for the last few weeks, perhaps all season. The tight ends combined for a total of 6 catches yesterday, 3 between Jesse James and Cole Kmet each. So the tight ends are starting to get involved.
Catches.
Yes, I know. For those of you outside of Chicago that don't watch this garbage, it's quote unquote new to us to see an actual offense run like a professional offense. Now, hopefully they can carry this into Pittsburgh next week. We'll get into the preview against the Pittsburgh Steelers in our next couple of shows, because the Bears and the Steelers playing in Steel City this time next Monday night for the whole world to see. But
Sorry,
back to yes. But it was nice to see the tight ends get involved. They made some positive yardage. And also, too, Jesse James with that touchdown catch. Unlike which brings up my third point, especially on that touchdown pass from Fields to Jesse James. It's nice to see Justin Fields turn and throw on the run to his left. Now, he's a right-handed quarterback. He can throw on the run on the right side easily, but to turn his body and throw against his body, against his strong arm side, that was very impressive. And that was what I liked yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, they showed some flashes. I mean, I think, look, the offense did look kind of like they were kind of into a rhythm a little bit. There, like I said before, there was some, so there were some drops, there were some, overthrows, by Fields, but again, I mean, look, this team still isn't good enough. I'm sorry, and look, Fields. Remember, people need to remember he was also sacked 4 times. So for that defense, for the 49ers actually looked pretty good. I mean, Bosa had a couple of sacks, got to him a couple of times. So I kind of feel like, this is sort of like, this is what you're going to be seeing for the rest of the year, Bears fans. You're going to be seeing some flashes here and there, but the defense gives up a big play. And yeah, they have injuries, but you know what? I mean, look, as our buddy Armando just said it. They made, Kyle Shanahan, for how you feel about him and how he called the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. He's a pretty good game manager. And he learned that from his dad. So, he learned how to make adjustments in halftime. And he was able to kind of, expose that hole on the inside for the Bears. Also expose, that secondary, which even when A. Jackson went out, they were bad anyway even before he went out. So, he able to expose it even more. So, look, I mean, look, Tabor did, like I said, Tabor did what he could, but you kind of feel like, again, it's a personnel thing just as much as a coaching thing. The Bears gave up 471 total yards. Did it one more time. 400 and actually the real total was 477, but even still 67, I should say, but even still, there was look. Look, that's not good. You can't, contend. You can't win a Super Bowl. You can't even contend for your division, especially when you have the Green Bay Packers in your same division. That's been playing pretty well despite some of their issues. But come on.
Yeah, and another comment from our buddy Armando. He says that referring to the Bears, they couldn't tackle yesterday's, and that is so true. There's been an issue with this
That was
team
the
all
theme
year,
around the league,
and
though. That was
yeah,
kind of the theme
yeah,
around the league yesterday, if you think
yeah,
about it, Armando.
and it's been an issue with this Bears franchise for over the last several years. So yeah, there's nothing new under the sun, unfortunately. But what about that big play that the Bears gave up on 30-19 in that third quarter? That was ridiculous. I thought that was the first domino to fall as far as the Bears starting to lose that game. Of course, you mentioned Cairo Santos. He still has that streak going as far as field goals are concerned, but he missed an extra point after that Fields touchdown run to start the fourth quarter. And that was the second snowfall, I believe, that would trend in the wrong direction for the Bears to lose that game.
That was kind of you saw it once when Garoppolo converted that 3rd and 20 to Samuel. Like that was
Hmm.
sort of like the tide that kind of turned the corner for them in the positive direction. He was short of the goal line, but he was down I think the half-yard line or something like that. But even still, they scored a couple plays later, and Slide missed a field goal, missed an extra point, but
Hmm.
still, that kind of started the trend. And look, if you're the Bears, look, if you're the defense, yes, it could be injuries, but also too, like they're older. Most of those
Yeah.
guys are over 30, and also too, you can tell that they missed Pagano, and I don't know what Sean Desai, I don't know. Is it him? Maybe he's not ready to be a coordinator, or is it other things? But it could be a combination. So it is just that the Bears defense, they've looked competent at times, but when they've looked bad, they've looked really bad.
Yes, and the Bears have looked really bad. I'm not going to sit here and say did they play down to that competition. In terms of the Bears, they're not good enough to play down to that competition. We'll get to some of the teams they played down to that competition or did not on the flip side. But if you're the Bears, you can't afford that luxury. You're not the Rams, you're not the Buccaneers, you're not the Packers. So you have to bring it every game. And it seems to me it's not even seems to me, but what it is that the Bears have to play close to perfect to have a chance to win some of these games. Now they've gotten away with some things so far this year, but your record says what you say you are. You are 3-5, and whatever is working, we know it's not working. You don't have the talent, even before what happened yesterday. So the Bears can't afford to make 3-4 mistakes that they can overcome. You're not the great teams in this league that can afford to do that.
Well, I know, some people. I've heard some people say that too. Well, the Bears, they play down to their competition. Oh, wait, this team's not good enough to play down to their competition. Really? Like,
Hmm.
what? You're seriously telling us that? Oh, they're playing? No, they're not. They're not good enough to do that. So it's just silly to even say such a thing. And look, I feel like at this point, if you're I don't know what else you can say. I mean, as you could, as Armando said, the scrum where the 49ers pushed the Bears into the end zone is where I saw the Bears defense gave up the game. If you
Yeah.
saw that,
Hmm.
when if you saw that, Garoppolo even got in the middle of that too. Pushing, his O lineman and pushing his, Mitchell and the rest of the O line, was pushing him into the end zone. It's just like how does that even happen? So you're like, yeah, that was bad, and that was just and look, I think some of these guys, I don't want to say some of these guys have checked out, but you wonder, have they checked out? I mean, mentally. I mean, that there's little chemistry, if none,
Hmm.
between A Rob and Fields. Fields and Mooney are more kind of like in that that combo. So you wonder, especially if they lose to Pittsburgh. Sorry, US. Sorry, all you football fans. You might actually want to tune into the Manning brothers, telecast of that just to see. I'm sure, Peyton and Eli will just hammer the Bears, but that's another thing. But we'll get to that in due time. But it's just, I don't know about how you feel about it, but it's just, it's just, I don't. They're bad. Can we move on? I want to move on because like all this stinkiness is starting to get to me, and I don't want that.
Yeah, we'll move on right after this timeout at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Just if you want to comment on today's show, any of our topics during these the 2 hours that we are on live. You can do so by going to our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago or on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Place your questions and comments in the comments section. We'll get them up on the screen for you. If you decide to do something stupid like that stupid Bulls fan did on Saturday, Lakeena will give you the Beer Lane Beer boot. No apologies. Lakeena, just my wrap up on the Bears game from yesterday. Yes, there are some encouraging signs. Yes, they did play a little bit better than last week at Tampa, which, as we said, Tampa was the better team. Even though I believe the Los Angeles Rams are the best team in the NFC. There's another team knocking on the door for that title. We'll get to that team on the flip side, but the Bears did show up. Yes, the 49ers are a lesser opponent than the Buccaneers, but they're a professional football team too, as we talked about it with Kylan Mills on Friday. We expected any and everything could happen. The only thing that didn't happen is that the game didn't end in the tie. And you thought that the Bears would be more fired up, especially offensively with Matt Nagy not being there. But the offense didn't do too bad, but the running game was non-existent in the second half.
Yeah, that was just, they didn't run the ball. They didn't. They went through, a couple of sweeps, pass plays, Fields, kept the ball. He had 103 yards. That's never a good thing. I'm going to talk about another team that depends on maybe the quarterback running the ball a little bit too much. I'll get to them in a second after this break. But look, that's not good. Now we'll see when David Montgomery comes back. Will that, I'm sure that mindset will change. But why didn't Herbert get the ball more? That's probably the number one question.
Yep, and that's going to be a lot of things that the Bears will have to answer as they will prepare for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will face them in the Steel City on Monday Night Football this time next week. Lakeena, it's the bottom of the hour. We had to take a quick timeout. On the flip side, we'll review Week 8's action from yesterday from the National Football League, and we'll give you our quick preview of tonight's game between the New York Football Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday, right here, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown, as we'll now transition over to what happened in the Week 8 action from the rest of the National Football League. Lakeena, I think we had a little bit more pizzazz, a couple more upsets yesterday, and it was Halloween, and a lot of strange things happened, both good and bad for the other teams in the National Football League. Let's get right to the recap from yesterday's action. It was the Carolina Panthers 19, the Atlanta Falcons 13. Matt Ryan, who's my fantasy quarterback, who did terribly yesterday, but that's a whole nother issue. Matt Ryan 20 for 27, 146 yards and a touchdown and a turnover again. Chuba Herbert for Carolina carried the ball 24 times for 82 yards and a go-ahead score in the fourth quarter. DJ Moore had 4 catches and 59 yards.
It was really the defense that kind of propelled it's Stephon Gilmore had one of those interceptions that Ryan threw. So Shaq Thompson had the other one. So his presence was felt in his first game back. So it was that was really the defense that kind of helped them there. And because look, Sam Darnold, he didn't make any major mistakes, but he wasn't flashy either. Like you said, Hubbard had that rushing touchdown for them. And look, they did just enough to win that game. And hey, that's fine. Look, Zane Gonzalez were 4 for 4 with field goals, and look, they did just enough to win that game. So you'll take it if you're Matt Rule and the Panthers.
Yep, the Panthers are at 4-4, stopping that 4-game losing streak. The Falcons failed to reach 500. They dropped to 3-4 on the year. To Buffalo, the Bills needed a second half surge offensively to down the Miami Dolphins 26-11. Josh Allen for Buffalo had 29 of 42 for 249 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 8 times for 55 yards in the score. Cole Beasley had 10 catches for 110 yards.
Not pretty, probably a little bit of rust, coming off the bye. But look, Josh Allen, if he's your top rusher, that's not good. Because I think you may have to start, depending on Devin Singletary and Zach Moss who are more than capable of moving the ball. But I think he felt like Allen felt like he had something to prove because he felt like that loss against the Titans was his fault. But again, look, they did just have to win that game. Tua did not look good, and that I can see why Dolphins fans are getting restless right now with him. And look, the Bills. This is kind of game you want if you're the Bills kind of get back on track. So you'll take the win.
But I caution Buffalo Bills fans, if Josh Allen is your leading rusher in most of these games, it's going to be trouble, especially come playoff time. To Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns dropped their record to 4-4 after the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated them by an ugly score of 15-10. We told you guys on Friday that this was a division game that could get ugly. I watched the majority of this game via my computer, and it was ugly. Both defenses showed up. Ben Roethlisberger took some of those hits. Baker Mayfield had a tough day for the Browns on the other side, but Roethlisberger for Pittsburgh was 22 of 34 for 266 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris had 26 carries, 91 yards in the go-ahead score. And Deontay Johnson for Pittsburgh had 6 catches for 98 yards.
Quiet there, you not you, Sam. I'm my thing here, but yeah, look, I think TJ Watt had a couple of recovered a couple of fumbles. He had a couple of sacks, so I think their defense was a little bit better than the Browns defense. And look, unfortunately, there were some key drops. Landry had a couple of key drops, and look, you can tell Baker Mayfield does not look good, does not look comfortable. I don't know if that shoulder's bothering him, but that. For me, I think that's really going to be the issue here for the Browns going forward. Is this going to be I don't know. I think you wonder, he's at the end of his contract, so you wonder, are they going to re-sign him? But it's not looking good for him right now. And I think the Steelers is kind of starting to show a little bit of a resurgence a little bit here. Ben Roethlisberger is not looking like the Ben Roethlisberger that we're used to seeing, but he's doing justice enough to keep his team in games, and that's what you want.
The Philadelphia Eagles destroyed the Detroit Lions 44-6. I'm sorry that we all picked the Lions on Friday. They looked horrible. Jared Goff was 25 of 34 for 222 yards. He was sacked a bunch of times, especially in that first half. Jalen Hurts, 7 carries for 71 yards for Philadelphia. TJ Hawkinson, even though he had a couple of drops, he had 10 catches for 89 yards. Former Bears running back Jordan Howard had 2 rushing touchdowns for Philadelphia. Boston Scott also had 2 rushing touchdowns for Philadelphia. And Darius Slade, the Eagles defensive back, he had an interception against his former team. Lakeena, I did watch the majority of this game via my computer, I should say. As soon as halftime hit, I checked out. The Lions did not show up.
Yeah, I'm surprised, and I apologize to our buddy Christine. She picked, she wanted to pick the the Eagles, but we talked her out of it, and we're
That's our fault,
sorry.
Christine.
We're so yeah. Feel free to yell at us when you come in on Friday. But yeah, I think the Lions they kind of like use up all their bag. I think Dan Campbell had to use up all his bag of tricks and just had all his stuff already mapped out when that game against the Rams last week. So this was just look, you take it. I mean, if you're the Eagles, best game of the season so far against the Lions. So look, Jalen Hurts didn't look didn't have to do too much. I mean, hey, 103 yards. Gardner Minshew even got in for a little bit. For a couple of passes, but you really again it's the Lions, so you really have to do too much. 6 sacks for that Rams defense. So.
The Lions are 0-8. The Eagles improved to 3-5. And one of the best games of the day from yesterday, it was the Tennessee Titans over the Indianapolis Colts, 34-31. The Colts let me down. I should have trusted Christine's pick. She said that she couldn't trust the Colts, and she was right. She picked the Titans. The Titans were down 14-0 early. And they came back. The Colts made a game out of it, scoring a game-tying touchdown late in regulation. But Carson Wentz, Lakeena did too much. I did watch some of this game live via my computer. Shout out to Spiro Ditas, a good friend of the show. He called the game yesterday for CBS. It was a very entertaining game, especially in that second half and overtime. Ryan Tannehill for Tennessee was 23 of 33 for 265 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Jonathan Taylor ran the ball well for Indianapolis, 16 carries for 70 yards and a score. A.J. Brown came up big for Tennessee, 10 catches, 155 yards and a score.
And Woods had that really bad pass. I don't know if that was a pass or he just lost the ball in the end near their own end zone. That was a pick six that propelled the take the lead, and then of course they were able to come back. It was just a strange game from start to finish. Exciting game too, but still, and at times we were able to pull it out. But unfortunately, it was a costly win because now, even though yes, there are three games now in the AFC South, they're kind of in the driver's seat there. But it looks like Derrick Henry's out for the year with a foot injury, so that he suffered during that game. Mm-hmm. So they're on the market for a new running back, but again, AJ Brown, showed you why he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. So a nice win for the Titans to get a little bit of a breathing room in that division.
Yeah, if you're NBC next week because the Titans will go on the road to play the Rams, you really shaking in your boots because Derrick Henry possibly will not play. That's what happens. You play football. Sometimes your stars get injured and you may not see them on screen. And one of the big upsets from yesterday, it was the New York Football Jets defeating the Cincinnati Bengals by the score of 34-31. Mike White, before he got knocked out of the game with a concussion, he was 37 for 45 for 405 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Carter for the Jets had 15 carries, 77 yards for a score. T. Higgins for Cincinnati, 4 catches and 97 yards.
Yeah, he joined Cam Newton as the only QB since 1950 to throw 400 yards in their first career NFL start. He's also the first QB with 400 yards, passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns in his first start. Like you said, unfortunately, he got knocked out, because of a concussion. Let's see. Okay, I'll get to you guys, in a minute with my studs and duds. You guys are going to be on the good end of that one, but look, I know there were a couple of bad calls late in the game. I believe it was Johns who carried the ball for the Jets, and then I forgot who it was that got called for that. I guess for unnecessary roughness. I think it was Bell. I think if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even Sam Hubbard. I'm not sure, but that sort of like propelled them to get that. The Jets get that first down and sort of sealed the win for them, but. Look, I mean, good for the Jets. I mean, I kind of I don't think anybody saw this coming. So, Mike White. I mean, again, there was a theme here yesterday, folks. I guess it was because it was Halloween, but we'll get to it with some of the other games. But it's just that was just an exciting game, but also a weird game too.
In the last of the early games from yesterday, it was the Los Angeles Rams dominating the Houston Texans 38-22. Davis Mills for Houston, the rookie quarterback, had 29 of 38 passing for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson ran the ball for the Rams very well, 14 carries, 90 yards in the score. Cooper Kupp had 7 catches, 115 yards and another score. Matthew Stafford on the flip side for the Rams had 2 touchdown passes. Lakeena, as we said on Friday, the Rams are better than the Texans. You jump on them early, and they did just that.
Yeah, those 2 touchdowns were by Mills were garbage touchdowns, so there really didn't really matter at the end. 3 touchdowns from Matt Stafford, and look, I think you can kind of feel also too, he's just a third guy to have most, TDs in first 8 games with his new team. Of course, and Patrick Mahomes was also Kurt Warner, tying with Kurt Warner for that record. So again, they really didn't have to do too much. They kind of let the foot off the gas, and they probably could have done more, but they kind of put out 5 sacks for the Rams defense that got better. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean, didn't really say too much after the game. So they did what they had. They did what you're supposed to do against a team like the Texans.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Monday. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakeena with you as we continue to review the Week 8 action from the National Football League. Let's get to the late games now. In the other upset from yesterday, it was the New England Patriots. Yes, Bill Belichick's Patriots. They defeated the Los Angeles Chargers, as we call them, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles on this show, by the score of 27-24. Justin Herbert, 18 of 35, 223 yards at two touchdown passes. Damian Harris ran the ball well for New England, 23 carries, 80 yards in the score. Keenan Allen, 6 catches, 77 yards, and they score.
Yeah, 2 bad interceptions for Herbert that kind of kept New England in that game. And look, it's hard for me to say this. I mean, he hasn't played one of the last couple of games talking about Herbert. So, but you give New England their due. I mean, look, their defense. A lot of people thought that was a very good defense coming in. They sacked him 3 times. Adrian Phillips had 2 interceptions for them. Again, look, could they make a play for maybe one of the wild card spots? I think that they're not going to have too many losses. Their schedule's pretty tough. So, but it's. But you know what? Look, you'll take the upset. That could be the thing that kind of breaks the tie, our tiebreaker. So big win for the Patriots.
Yeah, we'll see as the season goes along. The Patriots are 4-4 now. The Chargers dropped to 4-3. Seattle Seahawks get back on track, checking in with a 3-5 record after a 31-7 dominating win at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, 32 of 54, 238 yards in a score. Alex Collins ran the ball for the Seahawks, 10 carries, 44 yards. Tyler Lockett for the Seahawks, 12 catches, 142 yards. DK Metcalf, the stud wide receiver for Seattle, had a touchdown reception as well.
2 touchdown receptions Metcalf had. And look, I think, and Geno Smith didn't throw an interception. So, hey, look, you're doing what you're supposed to. You're doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, and maybe Russell Wilson might be back next week. So, again, we'll see. But look, this is sort of like a get-right game for the Seahawks. I think they really needed this performance by both Smith and by the team as a whole. So a good morale-boosting win for them.
The Washington football team drops another game, this time to the Denver Broncos by the score of 17-10. This was America's other game of the week. If you're Fox, I did watch the majority of this game live via my computer. Washington had their chances, but they just couldn't get into the end zone. Taylor Heineke for the Washington football team, 24-39, 270 yards and a touchdown pass. That was a great touchdown pass to DeAndre Carter. What a catch by Mr. Cardell's unbelievable. Melvin Gordon III ran the ball well for the Broncos, 10 carries, 47 yards, and a go-ahead score. J.D. McKissick for Washington led the team with 8 catches and 83 yards.
Yeah.
Lakeena, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that this was a nice. Look, again, this is a game that Denver really needed after the last few weeks. But I think Teddy Bridgewater didn't make any big mistakes, so good for Bridgewater. And look, now that Von Miller is gone, now he's now a new member of the Los Angeles Rams. Now that defense looks even better, and and look, we might be seeing some of these types of trades, but again, we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Did you see the end of the game, Lakeena? The Broncos were trying to run out the clock. They had 2 fumbles. The first fumble they recovered, but the second fumble I forgot who the running back was. They lost it. Washington gets it back, and they still couldn't put it in the end.
They still had a chance to win it. Yeah,
you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I think that was Williams I believe, that lost that fumble. So I saw a replay of it, and it was just like that was just not a very I think that was Melvin Gordon Jr. Melvin Gordon III that lost that fumble. But
that was the second one. Yeah,
that was the second fumble. Yeah, and that was not good. And if you're Denver, you're feeling pretty. You're feeling better knowing that didn't cost you the game, because that would have been terrible. But look. I think you'll take the win if you're Denver. You probably aren't going to win anything, but just try to get to 500, then perhaps build on it for next season.
Yeah, Washington is at 2-6. The Broncos improved their record to 4-4. In the game of the day on Fox yesterday, it was the defending world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers going down to the New Orleans Saints 36-27. If you listen to our show on Friday, I picked the Saints, and you saw why. Tom Brady for the Buccaneers was 28 for 40 for 375 yards and 4 touchdown passes, and he threw a pick six to seal the game for the Saints. Alvin Kamara ran the ball well for New Orleans, 19 carries, 61 yards, and a score. Chris Godwin for Tampa Bay, eight receptions, 140 yards, and a touchdown.
This is actually their 6th win for the Saints against the Bucs. So this is not just a Tom Brady thing. And look, unfortunately, Jameis Winston got hurt. He's out for the rest of the season with a torn MCL and also some damage to the MCL too. So he's done for the year. Trevor Siemian, the Western's very own, came on and look, didn't really have to do anything. Look, there's a mixture because they were already in the lead by the time he got out there. So he did what he had to do. And look, Alvin Kamara kind of kept drives going for them too. And also it was a defense. It was defense. PJ Williams had that pick six that kind of sealed the game for the Saints. And like I said, they've had their numbers. So, that they look, I'm sure Brady's gonna want his revenge, and I'm sure he's got that game against them. They're still a half game back of this, of the Saints, in the NFC South, but December 19th, which is going to be a Sunday night game, that's going to be huge. It probably could be maybe for seeding too, so and also for the division. So I think you're circling that game, and look, nice game by the defense, the Saints defense. And that's kind of propelled them to kind of where they are right now. They're 5-2, and a lot of that's because their defense.
Yeah, the Saints led Tampa Bay 23-7 at one point before Tampa Bay put up a 20-piece in the second half. But as we mentioned, it was the pick six from the Saints secondary that sealed it at the end for New Orleans as they improved their record to 5-2. And they're just one game back of Tampa Bay, which checks in at 6-2. In Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys, without Dak Prescott, go on the road and beat the Minnesota Vikings 2016. Cooper Rush had the game of his life in his first career start, 24 of 40 for 325 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Dalvin Cook ran the ball for Minnesota 18 times for 78 yards. Amari Cooper, who's on my fantasy team, had 8 catches, 122 yards in the go-ahead score. Amari Cooper had 2 catches, including that game-winning touchdown on that final drive. The Dallas Cowboys defense is better than advertised, folks, and behind a rookie quarterback who made his first start on Sunday Night Football in front of a national audience. Cooper Rush did very well. I'm not saying he should be Matt Flynn and go get his $100 million contract and go to a bad team, but the defense for the Cowboys kept Dallas in the game. The offense did enough just to win last night. It was a combination of that, and it's just the Vikings offense just been hit and miss all season long.
That's how I feel about that Vikings offense. I mean, like what the hell happened in those last couple of possessions? Like, where was the urgency? And look, Mike Zimmer, took it on him. Like it was my fault. Yeah, I can hear that from a first or second year coach. Yeah, one of the rookie coaches said that, but this is your 5th year. That's the kind of stuff that gets you a pink slip and a link card, dude. Okay, so don't say that. Well, it was my fault. I use up all the timeouts for really for I don't know whatever reason. But look, go for Cooper Rush. I remember the name from Central Michigan. And look, his if you saw his father's reaction, they kept taking shots of showing shots of his family. Yeah. His dad was just loving it. So you feel good for those type of stories and guys like him. But and look, I mean, look, are the Cowboys the top team in the NFC? Look, there are a couple of teams that can make a claim to that. Up north in Green Bay, you got out west in Arizona, even though they lost that game to Green Bay. Also, the Rams just got better with adding Von Miller. So it's wide open the NFC right now.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the Monday, all new right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Before we give you our quick preview of tonight's Monday Night Football game, let's get into our studs and duds for Week 8 from yesterday. Lakeena, I'll start. It was Cooper Rush for me for the Dallas Cowboys with those 2 touchdown passes, including the game winner to Cooper Kupp against the Vikings. Elijah Mitchell in his performance for the 49ers, 18 carries, 137 yards in the score in their win over Chicago. And my third stud will be, drum roll, please. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Let's see. My third one I'm going is on the fly, folks. Najee Harris for Pittsburgh, 26 carries, 91 yards in the score as Pittsburgh defeated Cleveland on the road yesterday, 15-10.
I'm keeping it the theme here with my studs. Cooper Rush, Mike White, Trevor Siemian, and also too, I'll even put in like a non-quarterback, but also a guy that kind of went for obscurity. Rasul Douglas, that was his first interception. That interception I sealed for the Packers going back to Thursday against the Cardinals. That was his first interception since 2018. He was actually in the Cardinals practice squad during the preseason before he got cut and got picked up by the Packers. So I put all those guys in the categories of guys who went from obscurity to being kind of like heroes for their team. So that's my one stud. I'm going to put that in one group there. Josh Allen, he had a rushing a couple of touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown. And look, like I said before, even though I feel kind of weird having your quarterback be your top rusher, that's never a good thing. Mm-hmm. But that's look, that was just at the win. Hopefully, to give the ball to your running backs more. Just saying. Let's see Let me see here. I'll give it to Jimmy G because I think he's a nice, Bears nice QB to have. 300 plus passing yards, no sacks, and no rushes, to him just to throw the ball against the Bears. Only 9, really? Somebody said that only 9. That's only been 9 QBs. I thought you thought there'd be more, but those are my studs.
Okay, my 3 duds is the first one is the Detroit Lions. They failed to show up yesterday. They really made me look bad, and I'll leave it at that. My second dud is the Cincinnati Bengals. They talked about all last week that this was a trap game. They couldn't afford to lose this one. They're 5-3. I think they're still in good shape, but if you're a young team like this, you cannot afford to lose games to one of the worst teams in the league. And so the Cincinnati will get my second dud. And my third dud will be that Minnesota Vikings offense. Lakeena, I'm with you. You thought, especially without Dak Prescott, that the Vikings would actually put up more points. They can't even put up 20 points. They look worse than the Bears.
Oh, that should be fun. Then when the Bears Vikings game, that should be a fun one in a couple of weeks, about 3 weeks. Good grief after the bye, but goody. That should be a lot of fun. My Dutch AJ Green, turn around, dude. Turn around. Look for the ball. You
turn around. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry.
You don't want to say the word because you might have to cut a check, but
right.
you have to cut a check, so don't residual check, so you don't want to do that. But yeah, turn around, dude. You should know that they were going to make a couple of shots at the end zone. They still had 14 seconds up and they had no timeouts. They were going to run the ball, so that would have been terrible. But AJ Green, turn around, dude. Cincy, I'll take Cincy. Really, you guys were saying that you wanted people to take you guys seriously, but yet you lose to the Jets. That's not going to help you. Sorry, that's not going to help. And no, that's not. You have the divisional lead right now. Yes, you're in good shape, but the Ravens are going to be right behind you. I think Pittsburgh, may have to stay a little bit reserved. They might make a go at it as well. So I'm giving you guys a dud. And again, you stole mine, Sid. The Minnesota offense, really, you got talent. Why aren't you utilize it? You should have scored at least 28 points. You didn't have to worry about Dak. So come on now. I don't know if it's a personnel thing. I don't know if it's an OC thing or something. I don't know, but someone's got to give over Minnesota. So, and also to my bonus stud, I'm gonna give it to our buddy Spiro Diaz for calling a great game yesterday in that Colts Titans game. That was a really entertaining game. Also, Jay Feely, who's been getting better working with him. So I think that that's a really good team. So give them a couple of bonus studs for them.
No doubt about that. We got less than a minute left in this first hour of Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, Week 8 in the National Football League concludes tonight with the 3-4 Kansas City Chiefs hosting the 2-5 New York Football Giants. That's at 7:15 p.m. on ESPN. ESPN2 will carry the Manning brothers. I'm I'm really looking forward to that with what Eli Manning has to say against his what his critique is going to be against the New York Football Giants, assuming that they just fall flat on their face. But back to our quick preview, Lakeena. Kansas City has to limit the turnovers. Patrick Mahomes, it starts with him. They have to run the ball with some consistency. We all know they can make big plays with tight end Travis Kelce and wide receivers Tyreek Hill, and Pringle. But that it's all about that defense for Kansas City. Will they show up tonight against a lesser opponent?
Well, look, it's been a very strange week 8 of the NFL. So would it shock me if the Giants somehow beat the Chiefs? I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. I know that a lot of those guys, are going to be out. Barkley's out. Galladay's out, and look, they Sterling Shepard's questionable too. So yeah, I mean, you would think they should be able to beat the Chiefs the Chiefs should be able to beat the Giants pretty easily, but again, their defense is not very good. And I'm hearing folks say, well, this isn't. They haven't been figured out yet and blah, blah, blah. But okay, yeah, that's fine. But again, your defense, you're going to need it especially in a very competitive AFC West, especially since the Raiders were on bye, the Chargers lost. So this could kind of help you guys kind of get back into it. But again, your defense got to get it together.
Well, before we check out this first hour, Lakeena, remember there's some recent history between these two teams. Remember what happened 20 years ago? During 9/11, it was the New York Giants' first game. It was with Tiki Barber, Kerry Collins, and Michael Strahan, and the rest of those guys. They traveled to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. It was the first game after 9/11. The New York Football Giants, they were coming off a Super Bowl appearance the year before against Baltimore, which they lost embarrassingly. But that game is on YouTube for those you want to check it out before tonight's game. Go and look at that. It was very charged up, emotional, obviously dealing with the tragedies of 9/11. So just want to remind our listeners and viewers that it's the 20th anniversary of that game this year. So go check it out on YouTube. It's right there for you. You want to get some historical perspective before you check in tonight's game between the Giants and the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, the Chicago Bulls get back on track. The best and worst from the association from over the weekend. We'll review Week 9 in college football, and the World Series continues. You're listening to Second City Sports with Sid and Lakeena right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday, right here, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
If you want to make a comment or have a question for us during any of our topics, during today's show, you could do so. Type in your questions or comment by checking out our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago, or go to Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, just like that stupid fan of the Bulls on last Saturday, Lakeena will politely give you the Beerland beer boot. No
Bye-bye.
questions asked. I love saying that.
I'll do it with a smile too. Bye-bye.
And speaking of doing things with a smile, the Chicago Bulls get back on track and improve their record to 5-1 as we talk NBA basketball after losing their first game of the year to the New York Knicks last Thursday. Lakeena, the Bulls, the men in red, get back on track with a 107-99 victory over the Utah Jazz. Of course, the Bulls will play the Boston Celtics in Bingtown tonight. We'll give you a quick preview of that game in just a moment. But reviewing last Saturday's win, Lakeena, DeMar DeRozan had 32 points in 35 minutes of action, 13 and 22 from the field, 6-6 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 6-6 from the free throw line. He was good. Javonte Green had 5 points off the bench in 22 minutes of action for the Bulls. I really starting to like that young man. Vucevic had 12 rebounds to go along with 16 points, even though he struggled from the field, only 4 of 19 shooting. Lonzo Ball was a plus 10 on the floor. He had 11 points and only 2 assists, but he still made an impact, especially down the stretch. And Zach LaVine had 26 points off of 9 and 19 shooting in 34 minutes of action.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a great team win for the Bulls. And, look, I think this is what you want. You want guys to kind of circulate who gets to step up. Zach has a bad night, DeRozan steps up. If Vucevic has a bad night, Zach can step up. Vucevic, can get a double-double. And, I know he's still struggling shooting, but I think he's starting to find his groove a little bit. So give him a couple of games so he can find his groove. I know he was 4 for 19, but, look, he still had 16 points. He has some, big rebounds, especially to kind of seal the win for the Bulls. DeRozan, 32 points, leading the way. And look, I know Zach's left thumb is still going to be kind of an issue. It's going to take a little time to kind of get the pain tolerance, and it's just but they knocked the Jazz. They were the last unbeaten team in the NBA. The Jazz were, so they knocked them out. And look, I think this is they play great team defense, and Caruso had some more big steals. I mean, had a steal, but also made some big defensive stops too. So look, I think a really good, solid, a really all-around good team win for the Bulls against a really good Utah Jazz team. So I think you'll take it. They're back in the win column.
Yeah, and speaking again back in the win column for Chicago, one of my concerns is going forward, especially now with a second-year forward Patrick Williams most likely out for the year with an injury. We talked about it on our show on Friday. Who's going to bring that defensive intensity from the not the perimeter, from the interior. For the interior for the Chicago Bulls? Tony Bradley, who the Bulls picked up over the summer, he had 14 minutes of action. He grabbed 4 defensive rebounds, 4 rebounds in total, 3 on the defensive end. He also had 2 big block shots. He was a plus 19 on the floor. Lakeena, as I said before, maybe Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley may have to address that at the trade deadline, but Tony Bradley did what he had to do in 14 minutes of action last Saturday against the Jazz. I want to see him contribute a little bit more. It's going to have to be a group effort, but who's going to rebound defensively coming off the bench? Because as we saw, especially in that loss against the Knicks last Thursday, this team is very small when you take Vucevic off the floor.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing. I've heard some people saying, well, maybe bring Thad Young back. Well, they have to put him on. The Spurs have to put him on waivers first, before that it has to clear before the Bears, the Bulls can try to pursue it. But yeah, the interior defense, that's definitely going to be an issue too for the Bulls, especially when they face teams that that their big guys, actually are so like big out up front. So, but look, I think once Vucevic, is out, that they look very small. So I think that's gonna be another thing they're gonna have to address. Look, and Bradley, I think he's pretty good. That he's more than capable of doing it. Maybe once they kind of get into the rhythm, I'm sure he'll probably get some starts as well, especially in the interior. So again, that look, I think you got some piece to play with, and you can kind of you can kind of sort of see like what they're going to do with it. So we'll see what happens with with that. And then look, I think I like where this Bulls team is doing. I like where they're going. So that's another concern. But again, I'm sure they're already like trying to find ways to address it. So I'm not worried about what they're going to do. I think that they may have something up their sleeve, knowing these two, but we'll see.
And speaking of the Bulls, as we mentioned at the top of the segment, they'll play at the Boston Celtics at TD Bank North Garden tonight at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can see that game on NBC Sports Chicago or NBA Elite Pass for those of you around the country. And those of you that are listening to us in the Boston area, watch that game on NBC Sports Boston. Mike Gorman and one-time former Bull, the White Mamba, Brian Scalabrine, will call the action for the Celtics fans. Of course, he's replacing the late Tommy Heinz, who passed away last year. Now, let's get into a quick preview of tonight's game, Lakeena. Of course, the Boston Celtics lost a heartbreaker on last Saturday in our nation's capital, 115-112 to the Washington Wizards, who are 5-1 right now. Boston's at 2-4. Lakeena, as you always say, the teams that lose are big or in a heartbreaker. They're going to be in a foul mood. I expect Boston to come out aggressive tonight. Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum are the two leading stars for the Celtics. The Bulls, and this, as we said before, they're going to the early tough part of their schedule. We're going to see what the Bulls are made of going into a tough environment against a good Boston Celtics team.
Don't forget Jaylen Brown too, and I'm sure they're going to be. I'm sure, like you said, that they lost both those games against the Wizards over the weekend, so they're probably not going to be in a very good mood. So, but I think the Bulls will be ready. I think Dennis Schroeder. I'm sure, like where's he been? So it's definitely one of those. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a trap game for the Bulls. I think. Look, the Boston's still Boston, so I'm sure they got a new coaching staff now. So I think that they're kind of play more of like the Bulls style. So it'll definitely be like one of those like race to 120 wins. And look, I think Boston, they're 2-4. They've lost a couple of heartbreakers, and I think the Bulls will be ready tonight. I don't know if I'm sure they should be able to win this game, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. I expect it. I don't know if the scoring is going to be that high, but if it is, I expect the Bulls to keep up. Like you said, how are you going to defend Jason Tatum? How many times are you going to double team him? And if that's successful, what are you going to do with Jaylen Brown? I think he's one of the best athletic young players in the league, and he's hard to stop when he gets it going. So, and we all know that Marcus Smart is an all-around player for that team. He brings it out offensively, but defensively as well. So I want to see how many times he's going to be matched up with DeRozan and Zach LaVine. And so that's going to be a very interesting matchup for fans to pay attention to tonight.
But it should be a pretty entertaining game. Like I said before, Tatum versus LaVine. That's always that should be a fun one between those two. And it should be a very fun and entertaining game. Absolutely. What other kind of like caught your eye in the NBA this weekend?
Kevin Durant acting like a fool, throwing the ball into the stands in last Friday's win against the Indiana Pacers. He was fined $25,000 for it, even though he wasn't ejected. But the Nets got back on track over the weekend, winning their 2 home games last Friday against the Pacers, and then last night against the lowly Detroit Pistons. The Nets, it looks like they're starting to pick things up a little bit. Will Kyrie rejoin his teammates at some point this season? So far, the answer is no. But it looks like Brooklyn's getting back on track. The Miami Heat, in front of a national audience last Friday, they got it done against the Charlotte Hornets, 114-99. Jimmy Butler led all scorers with 32 points and 10 rebounds. And they followed it up last Saturday with a back-to-back win against crushing the Memphis Grizzlies at home. So don't sleep on the Miami Heat just yet.
Yeah, I know.
A good friend of Lana Tagawa will be happy about saying that right now.
Yeah, I know. She's probably like, I'm sure I heard her tweet a couple of times over the weekend that, yeah, y'all sleep on us. Okay, go ahead. But look, I think I think Miami could be right up there with the Bulls. I think they could be right up there for a 3 or 4 slot. I mean, look, outside of the Nets, outside of the Bucks, who's a number 3 team? And I think look at the Heat play the way they've been playing. They're 4-1 right now. Do you think? Yeah, I mean, can it be kind of challenged for a number 3 seed? I mean, look, Bam and Adebayo had a double 26, 19 in that game. Tyler Hero continues to really be productive off the bench, so I think Spoelstra is going to keep him coming off the bench since he actually has been pretty productive about it. So it'll be interesting.
And reviewing Saturday's action, the Indiana Pacers dropped to 1-6 on the year after losing a heartbreaker to the Toronto Raptors 97-94. Of course, the Raptors are still without Pascal Siakam, but Scotty Barnes had a big game for the Raptors, 21 points and 12 rebounds. Toronto improves their record to 4-3. The Philadelphia 76ers crushed the Atlanta Hawks. This was their first game since last year's playoffs. Atlanta's getting out to a struggling start. I think they have a game coming up on Wednesday against the Brooklyn Nets on ESPN. We'll give you the schedule for the week ahead in just a moment, but the Hawks looked totally out of it early.
Yeah.
And Philadelphia took advantage of it. The Milwaukee Bucks had an offer this weekend.
Yeah.
They lost to the Utah Jazz last night. And they lost to the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday, 102-93. Shout out to Stephen Bartle, Chicago's very own, and a member of the Fly in the Lineup from 1989. He still calls college basketball games for Fox and in the Big Ten Network, but he's the backup color analyst for the Milwaukee Bucks television network. He was subbing in for Marcus Johnson over the weekend. He sounded great. So shout out to Stephen Bartle. But the Milwaukee Bucks, they have some guys that are injured right now, especially with Bobby Portis and a couple other role players. But Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, they still doing their thing, but both those guys can't do it all. They got to get some help. And did you check out that alley-oop dunk from George Hill on Saturday? Yes. And Stephen Bartle on the telecast said he went back all the way back to slam dunk that one. So to the fountain of youth. So that was a great play by George Hill. But if you're a Bucks fan, you could be a little bit worried, but you're not too worried right now. You're not.
I know they're 3-4 right now, and they've lost a couple of tough ones, like you said, Sid. But look, they got guys hurt right now, so I think that Middleton was out doing to an illness, non-COVID related. I think that's what people want to specify that. But yeah, I mean, I think Giannis and I think George Allen had 18 too. Portis had 15 off the bench, but look, I think Giannis can't do it all by himself, and I think that's sort of like another reason that maybe they lost that game against Utah, but again, they're not. People shouldn't be worried if they're the Bucks, right? The Bucks fan, you shouldn't be worried right now. I think, look, this is sort of ebbs and flows of the season. Guys are going to get banged up. Guys might have the flu or non-COVID related folks. Just that might should preface that, but they're going to be fine. I think the Bucks. I wouldn't be too worried about the Bucks right now. So let's be careful on that. But the Lakers had a pretty good showing. They beat the Cavs and they beat Houston yesterday. Yeah, they were a little bit closer though that they probably think they should beat. But look, Carmelo's still doing his still he's kind of the one guy that's probably been sort of like adjusted very well to this new Lakers team. He had 23 off the bench yesterday. Last night I should say Russell Westbrook had 20 and 9 assists. LeBron only had 15, but he really didn't you really had to do too much. That's probably you're going to probably get only 15 and 20 points from LeBron probably like all season. Excuse me, because with everything, all the other guys that he get, look, like I said before, it's going to take a couple of games for these guys start to, mesh well together. But they're 4-3 now, and I think Lakers fans should calm down a little bit.
Speaking of the Lakers game, I did watch that game last night in its entirety via my computer, and you mentioned the balanced scoring for the Lakers. This is what happens when you play defense and when you share the ball. And when you do those two things, that's what's going to happen. Now, Carmelo Anthony, when he first came into the game last night, he had 14 points in 7 minutes. He couldn't miss.
Right off the bat.
Right. It was a great moment for him and for his teammates and for the crowd at the Staples Center last night. But as we said, Lakeena, before the season started, this team offensively goes through Anthony Davis. Like you said, LeBron James is not going to score 25, 30 points anymore. It shouldn't have to depend on him to do it every night. And Russell Westbrook, and we didn't get to it last week, Lakeena, but I know he had that outburst with that dunk at OKC in which he got upset. And we won't go into it too much, but Russell Westbrook channel his emotions, and he played a well of a game last night. And so this is what balanced scoring does to a superstar team like this, which each guy knowing their role.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens now. Carmelo looks like he's going to be the number one guy coming off the bench for the Lakers. Also, pay attention to this player as well, because remember the Lakers struggled with outside shooting last year. Kent Bazemore, one-time Atlanta Hawk, one-time Portland Trailblazer. He stepped in and had a nice game last night as well. So pay attention to those two guys, Kent Bazemore and Carmelo Anthony, as your top two scorers and perhaps top two outside shooters coming in off the bench for the Lakers.
Well, and I think that's going to be the key, their 3-point shooting, because that was sort of like the thing that killed them in the playoffs last year. They couldn't shoot the three, so having Bazemore there to kind of help out. Hopefully, he can contribute. Now, an up and down week for Portland. Portland beat the Clippers, but they lost a tough one to Charlotte. So, if you're the Trailblazers, I believe they're 4-5 right now, or 4-3 or so, 3-3, I should say. If you're Portland and if you're Damian Lillard, you're probably thinking like, okay, what's going on here? Let's everybody kind of get together. And look, they can't blame injuries, because injuries, hasn't really been an issue for them.
Yeah, if you're Portland, they were one of those teams that was knocking at the door the last few years, as we mentioned, but they just couldn't get over it because of Golden State or what have you, because of injuries to their key stars. And so this is what happens when you're in mediocrity, especially in a tough conference as the West. And so, like you said, Damian Lillard, he says he wants to stay, but we'll see what happens with him and that team going forward. Another top team in the Western Conference that had a great weekend, the Denver Nuggets. Last Friday, they blew out the Dallas Mavericks on ESPN in front of a national audience at home. And then, of course, last Saturday, as they traveled to Minneapolis, they defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves by the score of 93-91.
And with Jamal Murray still being out, I don't think he'll be back till around like December or January. That's sort of like, that's the last I checked. So I think Jokic is still doing this thing. I know he got banged up a little bit. People were kind of worried that he'd get hurt, but it turns out it wasn't as serious. I think he just hyperextended. But he looked really good. That game against Dallas, they just blew the doors off of Dallas.
Yeah,
right. That was just crazy. Will Barton had 17 points leading the way there, and I think Denver kind of stay at that. They've had their struggles a little bit this early on. They're right at 500, but I think Denver looked really good.
I did watch some of that game live via my computer between that and the Bulls game. Minnesota, I know they're at 500 right now to start the year, but could they be a surprise team in the league? Talk to me in about a month, but they still have great young all-star talent in D'Angelo Russell, the point guard, and Karl Anthony Towns. Too bad he's not in the Bulls uniform, but that's a whole nother issue. But they have Chicago's very own Patrick Beverley to bring it in on defensive end. We saw what he's been doing throughout his career on various winning teams. So Minnesota, I'm not going to call them a surprise team yet. Like I said, talk to me in a month. But they competed hard against Denver. They just couldn't come out with a victory.
Well, yeah, and they're playing for new ownership too, too in mind. So I think they're trying to see what they have and how they look. We'll see if Karl Anthony Towns does decide to ask for a trade. But we'll see. That should be. We'll see what happens. I think Minnesota's actually looked pretty good so far. Let's go to the this week's coming up this weekend. Some good ones here tonight. Of course, you got the Bulls and Celtics, of course. The Raptors and the Knicks. That should be a good one. That's just a 6:30 on NBA TV. Also, you got Denver and Memphis. That should be a fun one too. Also, San Antonio, Indiana, and also Portland and Philly. That should be a fun one at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, Portland and Philly. I want to get into that matchup for a minute. Could this be a preview of Damian Lillard auditioning for the Philadelphia 76ers? We're not so sure, but we'll see what happens with that. Of course, Ben Simmons, the disgruntled superstar for Philadelphia, is still out. Of course, we all know that he's waiting to be traded any day now, so we'll see what happens with that. And also another matchup tonight. I'm really looking forward to this one. Memphis, even though they're 3-3, they still had a strong start to the season. They'll host the Denver Nuggets tonight from FedEx Forum in Memphis at 7 p.m. I'm really looking forward to this game as well. John Morant, one of the top young stars in the league. He has a 28.7 points per game average, and of course he's facing Nikola Jokic, the defending MVP, who's averaging 24 points per game for Denver.
Should be a fun one down there in Memphis. Tomorrow's matchup, we got a couple of good ones, Miami and Dallas. That's the first of the TNT Tuesday doubleheader. That's at 6:30. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler against Jokic. That's my screen. Luka Doncic. That's my screen decides to act up, unfortunately. That should be a good game. Jimmy Butler, as we mentioned with the Miami, he's part of the strong 5-1 start for that team in South Beach, Florida. Dallas is at 4-2. They defeated Sacramento yesterday after losing big on Friday. Also, too, at 8 p.m., tomorrow night, the Utah Jazz will host the Sacramento Kings, as we just mentioned a moment ago. The second part of that TNT doubleheader tomorrow night, the Phoenix Suns will host the Zion Williamson-less New Orleans Pelicans. And then, of course, at 9:30 p.m., the Lakers and Rockets will wrap up the 2-game series at Staples Center.
Yeah, I think they just played a couple of days ago too. So I think if you're the Lakers, I think you're gonna try to go for the over on that one. Wednesday, New York and Indiana. That should be an interesting one. Also, too, you got the Bulls and the Sixers. Another part of that tough stretch for Bulls they got coming up for these next couple of weeks. That should be a fun one. Joel Embiid against Zach LaVine. That should be a lot of fun. And Tony Bradley Jr. He was kind of like the stopper last year when he was with the Sixers. So I'm sure he's gonna want to do a little favor to help the Bulls win that game. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, but continuing with our Wednesday schedule, at 6 o'clock, we'll have the Toronto Raptors traveling to our nation's capital to face the surprising 5-1 Washington Wizards. As we mentioned, ESPN will have a doubleheader on Wednesday. The first game will be Atlanta at Brooklyn. At 7 o'clock, we'll have the Nuggets and Grizzlies wrapping up a 2-game series in Memphis. The Clippers and the Timberwolves will play each other in the Target Center at the same time. Mavericks and the Spurs at 7:30. The second game of the ESPN doubleheader on Wednesday will feature the Charlotte Hornets, a surprising 5-2 Charlotte Hornets, taking on the Golden State Warriors.
Ooh, that should be a lot of fun. Also, too, that Denver-Memphis one at 7 o'clock. That should be a lot of fun. A very good slate for Thursday and for Wednesday, I should say, and for Thursday. Now, remember, none of these games are going to be on TNT. These are literally scheduled to be on TNT, but with football going on now, they've moved some of those games to NBA TV. That's where the doubleheader will be at Utah. But first, though, Utah and Atlanta at 6:30. That should be a fun one. That first game on TNT at 6:30. That same time, you got Boston and Miami. That should be a lot of fun. Be a lot of fun. Jason Tatum versus Jimmy Butler. And also Houston and Phoenix. That's the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader.
Yeah, Houston and Phoenix. That should be a whole lot of fun. It's a young Rockets team against an experienced Phoenix Suns team. And this looks like the Suns are starting to get on a roll here a little bit with Chris Paul. Devin Booker had a nice game on Saturday against Cleveland. And DeAndre Ayton is looking forward to getting back to being one of the top young big men in the game. I know he's looking for a contract extension from the team. We'll see what happens with that. And so look out for Phoenix as well. I know they're trying to prove to people that last year was not a fluke. And they're one of the teams to be reckoned with in the Western Conference. And wrapping up the Thursday schedule at 9:30, it'll be the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm sure the Lakers are going to want revenge after letting that lead some away in OKC earlier last week.
And Russell Westbrook will go off, at least try to.
Oh, yeah. Triple-double. Don't be surprised to get a triple-double from Russell Westbrook. And is there anything else in the NBA that kind of caught your attention over the weekend?
Real quick, not to give this idiot too much attention, but following the Bulls win over the Jazz last Saturday, NBC Sports Chicago, of course, have their post-game show with Jason Goff. Hopefully we can get him on this program soon. He's joined by Will Perdue and Kendall Gilbert. It was just Jason and Kendall last Saturday night. Also, it was Tony Kukoc night. He was honored before the game, of course. Tony Kukoc is now the newest member of the Basketball Hall of Fame. It was an idiot fan that decided to jump in front of the camera at the United. So this was the Crew's first game at pre and post game telecast live from the United Center of the season. Of course, it was Halloween, so I get it.
Right.
This idiot fan with a red wig and a Tony Kukoc jersey decided to jump in front of the camera for about 4 seconds before the nice people behind the scenes, the camera crew, decided to shove this idiot off the set. And Jason's like, you don't want to do stupid stuff like that. And Kendall Gill said, no, you don't want to be that guy. And so they kept their cool. Thank goodness nothing serious happened. But Lakeena, I'm all for fans being excited and being happy. We all
Right.
want to be seen on camera, but to do something stupid like that, he got what he deserved. And if you guys want to see the evidence, go to Jason Golf on Twitter and Instagram. He has that picture up as his profile now.
Yeah, I know that's actually pretty cool. But yeah, look, look, let's not let's keep it short and sweet. Let's not
Yeah,
let's not get get this guy any kind of grievance, because I think that those are the kind of things that's why people do stupid stuff, so that
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. So let's keep that guy like anything else. So we won't give him any kind of grief. But yeah, this is the sort of reason why people don't want to go to the stadiums anymore. They rather watch games from the comfort and safety of their own home. So just a thought.
Exactly. Yeah, that fool got what he deserved, and we'll leave it at that.
Yep.
Lakeena, we got a couple minutes left before we had to hit the bottom of the hour break. The 2021 World Series will continue between the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros. The Astros got a big win to hold off elimination in Game 5 with a big 9-5 victory. Adam Duvall hit a grand slam in the first inning for the Atlanta Braves. He's only the third player to do that in MLB history. Of course, the Astros came back with a run of their own, scoring in the next 3 innings. Lakeena, Atlanta, even though the last potential two games will Game 6 will be tomorrow night in Houston. Of course, the Braves lead the best of 7 series 3-2. Lakeena, Atlanta better win it tomorrow night. If not, you definitely do not want to face a Game 7 on the road in Houston. Now, Houston was in this position a couple years ago against the Washington Nationals, and they lost Game 7 on their home field. I'm sure they definitely don't want history to repeat itself 2 years later. But Atlanta, they blew a golden opportunity. Their starting pitching was not good, but they still have a chance to close it out tomorrow night. I think they still have momentum. I know it's clearly on Houston's side since they won the game, but if Atlanta can jump out on Houston early like they did in the first game of this series, they should be fine. But if they don't, it's going to be a long night in Game 6 tomorrow on the road.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is only the third time that in the World Series history the team overcame a 4-1 deficit to win face elimination. The last team to do that was the 0-2 Angels in Game 6, who were up against the Giants. Who managed that team? Dusty Baker. So I'm, look, I'm not saying that this is going to be the case here. Of course, Atlanta still has the advantage, so they're still up 3-2. But look, like Martin Maldonado, who I don't want to say we haven't heard much from him this postseason, but the fact that he kind of led that offense, I'm like, that's not that. I guess some people would say that's not your night to do it, but to clinch it. But let me see who Zach Greinke had a good showing too. To kind of he had a pinch hit too. I think he's just the first guy to do that in about 90 years or something like that. First to have a pinch hit. It's true. Yeah. So the first person to do that. So since like 90 years. So that's good for him. But I'm not saying that the Astros can come back and win it. I had Astros in 6. It'll be Max Fried against Luis Garcia in Game 6. If you're Garcia, you didn't have a good showing in Game 1, so you want to kind of redeem yourself. So you may see some other guys too. You may see do like a pitching by bullpen kind of thing, but I'm not. Look, I know I had the Astros in 6. I'm gonna go back and say I think Astros in 7. I'll to save face. I'll say that.
Of course, I had the Atlanta Braves in 7, so I'm still looking good technically as of now. But a couple of these things, because I know we're going up against it, going to our bottom of the hour break. One, the Houston Astros bullpen, which I was in question about throughout this playoff run, they actually showed up last night in Game 5, and so that's what happens when you have 9 runs support on the scoreboard. And speaking of the 9 runs that Houston scored last night, all of them came without the home run. So if you're the White Sox for next year, you got to learn. The home runs are nice. We all love them, but sometimes, especially in the playoffs, you got to score runs without the home run. If you could do that with that great starting pitching, you'll win the majority of the time. Going back to that 2002 World Series, Lakeena, I remember watching that Game 6 against the Angels. It was on a Saturday night. I remember in that 6th inning, Fox was showing a highlight reel of Barry Bonds' career achievements up to that point.
Yes.
And I had that sinking feeling in my stomach. And I was looking at my friend. I said, I bet you San Francisco's going to lose this. Now, it turned out they lost Game 6. Of course, they got embarrassed in Game 7. They lost the World Series. But up until that time, you thought the Giants were going to win because Barry Bonds was having a great World Series. Even though he was being walked a bunch of times, he had about 3 or 4 home runs in that World Series. He had a ridiculous batting average just off the charts. But after that, man, the Angels with that rally monkey in the 7th inning, and the rest was history.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure Dusty would love to exercise those demons. So
yeah,
from that other disappointments too. So this could go 7, but it should be a fun one. And look, the ratings have not been very good, but maybe especially if it goes 7, they might get some pretty good ratings. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We hit the bottom of the hour on Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. On the flip side, we'll wrap up today's show by reviewing Week 9's action from last Saturday in college football. And plus, we'll have a whole lot more information and fun. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, live and in living color for a Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we wrap up today's show. Lakeena, before we get to our last segment, if you want to have a question or comment for us for any of our topics during today's show, since we have at least 20 minutes left in the show, you can go to our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions and comments in the comments section. Any of our topics that we discussed today, you can put them in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up and running for you. And if you decide to do something stupid or to troll or disagree, being disrespectful, Lakeena will politely give you the bill and beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I like saying that. But we trust our audience. We have a great audience, and you guys are great. So keep those questions and comments coming. And please keep listening and watching us on Sports Zone Chicago and get the word out. Please. We love doing what we do. Now let's review Week 9. That was last Saturday from the world of college football. It was lit, as the kids would say. Let's start up in SEC action. The number 1 team in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs, had no problem with the Florida Gators. They defeated Georgia defeated Florida 34-7. Stetson Bennett, 10 of 19, 161 yards and a touchdown for Georgia. Zamir White ran the ball 14 times for 105 yards and a touchdown. And Karius Jackson had 3 catches to 59 yards in the score.
Yeah, I mean, look, Georgia's showing you why they're number 1, and they've already wrapped up the SEC East. Kentucky lost Kentucky lost, so they've already got the division wrapped up. So another big showing by their defense as well. And look, I think they're showing you why they're number one right now. And it's just he had a couple of interceptions, Bennett did, but that was kind of like late in the game. It really didn't matter at that point. So, in Florida, you're kind of like stuck in a crossroad. I think you may have to do some personnel changes, if you will. Maybe Dan Mullen might. Some people would say maybe Dan Mullen should be like out. So I don't know if we get to that point, gotten to that point yet, but look, I think Georgia's number one, and they're not really relinquishing it right now.
Speaking of the number 2 team in the land, the Cincinnati Bearcats had little trouble with Tulane 31-12. Desmond Ryder, could he be a Heisman candidate? Maybe. He was 17 of 27 for 227 yards and 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah, they kind of let Tulane hang around a little bit. I mean, playing around with their competition, playing down their competition for a little bit in that first half. Not exactly a good showing, especially with the playoff rankings starting to come out tomorrow night. So that's not a good impression that you want to leave. But look, they pulled away late. Ritter did his thing, and they won. They beat it pretty handily in the end. So I wouldn't be too fussed about it.
The number 4 team in the land, the Oklahoma Sooners, blew out the Texas Tech 52-21. Another Heisman candidate, Caleb Williams, was 23 of 30 for 402 yards and 6 touchdown passes. And Marvin Mims, the stud-out wide receiver for OU, 4 catches, 135 yards, and 2 scores.
Williams is the third player to have at least 6 passing touchdowns, no interceptions in the game. Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, that's pretty good company. And also, he's also the first true freshman to do that. So again, this is a guy that didn't start playing football until his senior year in high school. So this just shows you how amazing he is. Penn State, Ohio State, pulled away from Penn State. I mean, look, I think Ohio State's kind of quietly, like, oh, no one's talking about us. Okay, C.J. Stroud had a touchdown pass, and Travion Henderson, he could probably be a guy that could be right there for the Heisman. Had 152 yards and a touchdown. So, but the defense kind of like helped keep Penn State at bay. And look, I think Ohio State's sort of like, well, no one's paying attention to us. Okay, where they're just trolling along, la 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 la, like, oh, no one's paying attention to us. And look, if you're Ryan Day, you're fine with that.
Penn State, I thought they were going to pull it out. They were right there for the most part, but like you said, Ohio State made a couple of big plays down the stretch to clinch the 33-24 victory. Ohio State improves their record to 7-1, 5-0 in the Big Ten. Penn State is now 5-3, 2-3 in Big Ten action. And speaking of the Big Ten, I had this game on from start to finish, Lakeena. It was the number 6 ranked Michigan Wolverines going down by 4 after blowing a 16-point lead to number 8 ranked Michigan State Spartans, 37-33. Shout out to Mel Tucker. He was very emotional with Jenny Taft from Fox after the game. Kane McNamara for Michigan was 28 of 44, 383 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he had that critical interception that sealed the deal for the Spartans. Kenneth Walker, the third for Michigan State, he could be a Heisman candidate as well. 23 carries, 197 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And Andrell Anthony for Michigan, 6 catches, 155 yards, and 2 touchdown catches.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the defense for Michigan after that. I mean, that was just
they took the foot off the gas and they got caught.
Yeah, and that was the problem. I think that was the problem. They should have been more. They should have known that they were going to give the ball to Walker the third, and the fact that they didn't. I mean, look, props to Mel Tucker. Look, it was actually Nick Saban, who he worked for, that actually called, told Tom Izzo to tell the AD at the time, look, maybe you should look at Mel Tucker, my buddy Mel Tucker. Remember, Nick Saban coached there for a little bit during the early 2000s. It actually was his assistant, Tucker was, and told Tom Izzo that maybe you should give this guy a call. And look, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of USC. He's also out there. But one of the reasons why he went back to Michigan was that Michigan State was that his parents are close by. They're of older age. He wants to keep an eye on them and be near them. So that's why I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Michigan State's got enough money to kind of bump up his salary, so that won't be a problem. But look, a nice showing from Michigan State. Still a lot to do though in that conference. We'll get to that in the division, so we'll get to that in a second. But Oregon had a good showing, beating Colorado pretty easily. And look, those were such garbage touchdowns late, so it really wasn't a big deal. But look, Anthony Brown Jr. had a nice showing there, 307 yards. I think he had a touchdown run too, if I'm not mistaken. But also Kelvin Thibodeau, did his thing too. So I think if Oregon can kind of sneak back up there too. I know that Stanford loss is bad, but look, they should have won that game, but whatever. But they're kind of sneaking along there too. They're still right there for the Pac-12, perhaps maybe another spot. But they got a tough one this weekend. We'll get to that in a second. But what do you think about that? What do you think about that game?
You're talking about Oregon? Yeah, they did what they had to do. Like I said, Colorado is terrible. So Oregon, I'm not saying they're going to be right there for the college football playoff, but they could be there for the Pac-12 title game. It depends on who they play. So it was a nice showing for Oregon. Going back to the Big Ten, as you were alluding to, number 9 Iowa, the Hawkeyes were upset at Camp Randall. The Wisconsin Badgers defeated them by 27-7. And Graham Mertz for Wisconsin was 11-22, 104 yards and a touchdown. But it was the running game that got it done for Wisconsin. Braylon Allen, 20 carries for 104 yards. Danny Davis III had 5 catches for 59 yards. I did turn to this game for a little bit, Lakeena, as you've been alluding to these last couple of weeks. Wisconsin, after that bad start, they're starting to turn it around. They are now 5-3 on the year. I believe the wins are their last four in a row. Yeah, so they could look. Mertz has kind of playing like the guy that you think he had a couple of touchdown runs as well. And look. I mean, I think we overestimated Iowa a few weeks ago. They were the number 2 team in the country, but they've been they've given up a lot of big offensive drives, and that I think we overestimated them. I think, but look, go for Wisconsin. They're getting hot at the right time. You're listening to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color. Sid Lakeena with you on Sports Zone Chicago's review some of the top games from last Saturday in Week 9's college football action. Let's go to the SEC. Number 10 Ole Miss, they were upset by number 18 Auburn. The Tigers get it done 31-20. Matt Corral for Ole Miss was 21-37, 289 yards in an interception. But Tank Bisbee got it done for Auburn. 23 carries, 140 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Auburn's in the driver's seat in the SEC West. Yep, they're ahead of they're ahead of Alabama right now. So they're in the driver's seat. They've got the keys right now in that division. So that's the team they lost to in the tiebreak. They lost their last couple. So now Auburn's in the driver's seat in that SEC West. So look out for the Tigers. I think Bo Nix is starting to. I know Bo Nix has had an up and down season, but he's looked good the last couple of games. Treon Bigsby, he had a rushing touchdown, 148 yards. Tank Bigsby, what a name. But yeah, it was really their defense that kind of helped propel that. They had 3 sacks, so that's pretty. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, look out for Auburn. And look out for this team, as Lakeena loves to at least has an axe to grind with this team for this season. The number 11 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they get it done, defeating the North Carolina Tar Heels 44-34. Kyron Williams, the stud running back for the Irish, 22 carries, 199 yards, and a touchdown. Lakeena, I thought North Carolina was going to do it. I thought they were going to be like Cincinnati to go up to South Bend and pull off the upset, but it just wasn't meant to be. A couple of their defense. They've been decimated by injuries on the defensive side, so that's why they're kind of like where they are right now. North Carolina is so. Okay, let's get right to as I was talking about that upset. Kentucky was upset by Shane Beaver's Mississippi State. Mike Leach's Mississippi State team, I should say. Kentucky, look, again, you want to show people that you were for real, but you lose to a pretty good Mississippi State team. Not great, but they're still pretty good. They're 5-3. 3 interceptions by Will Levis, and that kind of killed them. In Big 12 action, I did turn to this game for a couple of minutes. It was number 16 Baylor. The Bears hold off the Texas Longhorns 31-24. Abram Smith, Baylor's stud running back, 20 carries, 113 yards, and a score.
Yeah, Baylor's still trying to get in the outside, get in the thick of it, trying to get in that top 2 in the Big 12, to go to the championship game. They could do it, but a lot has to happen for them. Excuse me. Ooh, pardon me. Pittsburgh and Miami. Miami, Kenny Pickett, broke a lot of the passing records. I think there was one with that Marino had, I think, like most touchdown passes, I believe, that stood there for like almost 40 years, or over 40 years, I should say. But it looks like Miami might have found their quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke, had 3 touchdown passes and 426 yards. This was over a slugfest, so over at a Heinz Field, but they looked. Miami actually looked the best they looked in like the last couple of weeks.
Yep. So they get it done at Pittsburgh 38-34. We know how much you love your West Coast football, Lakeena. That's the number 121 ranked San Diego State Aztecs. They go down to Fresno State, losing by 10, 30-20. The Fresno State improves their record to 7-2. San Diego State with their first loss of the year at 7-1.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, for Fresno State, Jake Hayner was 25 of 42 for 306 yards and a touchdown. And for Josh Kelly, 5 catches for 107 yards. Jordan Mims, the stud running back, 29 carries, 186 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, if he was playing in the Pac-12, he probably get some attention for some Heisman.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's been really good. Look, I mean, Fresno State's had this thing where beating, their fellow Mountain West teams, kind of like the rather undefeated Steeds. They did it to Boise State a couple of years ago, some years back. I think they did. So I think like San Jose State, I should say, and now they've done it to San Diego State. The Brady Hoax and the Aztecs. So, a nice win for that program. They're kind of starting to, kind of be on the come up, if you will, because there were some people that said that maybe they should have got rid of the football program, but. They got a new regime there, and look, they've looked really good so far. They're 7-2, and they might be going to a pretty good bowl game. Iowa State. Now, I told you about this. West Virginia beats Iowa State's 38-31, kind of derailing their chance, the Cyclones' chance of being in the top 3, in the top 2 in the Big 12 to the championship game.
Yeah, West Virginia, we all know they can score with the best of them in the country. Of course, Iowa State, they come from the Big 12 as well. So we knew this was going to be a shootout, but West Virginia just had a little bit more bullets in the gun than Iowa State. And so it's not surprising. I think you called it on Friday, and that's exactly what happened. Give props to Jared Dodge, 30 of 46 for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Bryce Ford Wheaton, the star wide receiver for West Virginia, 6 catches, 106 yards, and 2 scores.
Yeah, a very good showing by the Mountaineers. This one was kind of a slugfest. These two teams scored 80 points before it got to halftime, but BYU pulled away late 66-49 over Virginia. Yeah, I know. Wasn't it nice there were basketball teams? That was like a basketball score. That probably
yeah.
Taylor Algier had 266 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like I said before, keeping up with the theme, if he was in a little further in the East Coast, he probably wouldn't be, looking at for some Heisman consideration, because I think he had about about 20 touchdowns, rush touchdowns this season. But also, Jaron Hall had 349 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, a good showing for the Cougs.
And wrapping up, we're wrapping up the college football action from week 9. Let's go to the unranked teams. Let's go local. Lakeena down in Champaign-Urbana. The Fighting Illini, their record now drops to 3-6 after losing to Rutgers 20-14. Isaiah Paccio for Rutgers had 21 carries for 91 yards. Noah Vedral had a touchdown on a 15-yard touchdown run for Rutgers to kind of seal the deal for that team. Now they improved their record to 4-4.
Typical Illinois. Typical. Have a big win against Penn State, but yet they have a letdown against Rutgers. Look, if you're Rutgers, you needed that win, so you're back on track. But Illinois, typical Illinois letdown win. Letdown loss, I mean.
Yeah, and the Minnesota Golden Gophers destroyed Northwestern 41-14 Evanston. I did turn to that game for a few minutes. Northwestern was in it, kind of, sort of at halftime, but Minnesota was just pulled away in the second half. They were clearly the better team.
Well, and to Minnesota, they're in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West right now. I think they're 4-1, I believe, in the conference. So everyone else has 2 or 3 losses. So they're kind of after that, that tough loss against Ohio State early on, they're kind of in the dry, and I think they had a bad loss too against, I forgot, I think it was Western Michigan or Central Michigan. It was somebody from the WAC or Bowling Green, I think it was. And look, they're kind of in the driver's seat. They're on the verge of probably perhaps maybe win if things go, right for them, they could end up winning the Big Ten West Division. So hey, look, that's crazy how things work. Couple other scores of note: Washington State and Arizona State. What that
Herm Edwards, what's the problem?
Right, and this is a Wazoo team that's gone through a lot. They lost their head coach because he wouldn't get Nick Volovich says he wouldn't get the vaccine, and that's required. So now Jake Dicker had to take over, and this poor guy has had to call some other guys from he's from the June Jones tree of coaching. He coached him, SMU. He was at SMU, so he had to come in, call some of those coaches, and now they pull off a pretty big upset. Now they're 5-4. They're still they're kind of right there too in the Pac-12 North. So a nice win for the Cougs. And but speaking of SMU, unfortunately they lose to Houston after Marcus Jones at 100-yard game-winning kickoff return for a touchdown. He had 8 of these. Maybe I should not have kicked to him. Just saying, he has 8 of these in his career. So maybe not a smart thing to kind of kick to him. But I see where they were going in the situation. They thought they were going to go out of bounds and maybe perhaps do it that way. They couldn't line drive because Houston could have set up for a field goal, but y'all still lost. So SMU unfortunately no longer unbeaten. So that's a tough one to pill to swallow if you're an SMU fan.
Yeah, back to Big Ten action. Purdue gets it done over Nebraska. Nebraska will be featured on Big Noon Saturday. That's coming up for this week. But they lose to Purdue by the score of 28-23. Akeem Doree had 17 carries for 74 yards for the Boilermakers. It was the defense in the running game that got it done for Purdue. And back to the Pac-12 action. We had USC defeating Arizona, who are still winless, 41-34.
Yeah, I think they lost one of their wire receivers for the year. USC did, and I saw this game. This was pretty ugly. They kind of had to kind of hold off the Wildcats, who are kind of going through a turnaround right now. And look, I think that SC is going to be looking for the new head coach. I think, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they go with. Who's going to be interested in the job. Also, one more Pac-12 where you got UCLA and Utah. Actually, it was very emotional. They dedicated the game to a couple of teammates, who were killed, within a couple of just a few days of each other. I don't want to get really into it. I don't want to bring down the mood, but they kind of fit off that emotion. Tavion Thomas had 4 touchdowns. 4 rushing touchdowns, 160 yards. Cameron Rising had 179 passing yards and a touchdown pass and a touchdown run. So a nice showing for the Houston. Very emotional game. But also too, if you're UCLA, Chip Kelly's now back in the hot seat. So he might be getting his pink slip in a little bit, but we'll see.
And that's your Week 9 recap from the world of college football. Tune into our next show, which will be this coming Friday right here on Second City Sports. We'll give you our big games to watch for Week 10 in the world of college football. Lakeena, we're going up against it as we wrap up today's show. A local news, sports news media item to pass along to you guys. Good friend of the show, Layla Rahimi of 670 The Score, part of the Rahimi and Bernstein show, 9 to noon on 670 The Score in Chicago. She'll be adding on to her resume, so she's going to be working part-time as a sports anchor reporter for the NBC affiliate WNBQ TV, Channel 5 here in Chicago. It's nice to see Layla get back on TV full-time now.
Good. Yeah, and she gets to stay in the family. She even said in her statement over the week yesterday, she said, well, yeah, they thought they were going to get rid of me. NBC Universal did, but they were going to get rid of her that easily. And also too, we want to give a shout out to Sayafa Lewis, who she's replacing, and he's going back. He's going to the NBC affiliates in Philly to be a news anchor. So he has to go back home. And I know he said I remember he said in the interviews that he wants to kind of go back. He wants to go back home, be close to his family. That's where his parents are, and the rest of his family, lives in that area. So, good. This is, good news all around. Also too, Layla Joy is a pretty good lineup of folks at, NBC Sports, NBC Channel, NBC 5 Chicago. Jeff Blancy, who did a great job, who's been, we look, you guys know him, he's been doing this forever, did it for ABC 7 for a few years, went back, now he's back doing it here, and also to Mike Berman, who we hope to get either one of those guys on the show at some point. He's been here a couple of years to do it. So Layla, they're good. They're kind of going to do like a rotation sort of thing. Layla and Jeff and Mike. They're going to do kind of like a rotation of it, so there won't be like a set schedule. So Layla will still be heard on 6-7 The Score. I know some people are already like freaking out about, oh no, she's gonna break away from Bernstein. Nope, that's not happening. They're going to do kind of like a hodgepodge. Remember, Jeff Blancy also does color for the DePaul hoops. They're going to be starting their season up next week. So this is going to be like kind of a scheduling thing. So it's all going to depend. But congrats all around.
Yes, congrats to good friend Layla Rahimi. She's back on television, back on your TV screens and laptops full time. So congratulations to her. Lakeena also, not to end this show on a sad note, but a long-time former MLB player and long-time Boston Red Sox broadcaster, Jimmy Remy, passed away over the weekend at the age of 68. I know he's been battling health issues for the last decade and a half of his life. Of course, he was diagnosed with lung cancer back in 2008. Of course, the Red Sox always held the telethon with in his honor over the last several years or so. It's a big hit to not only the Boston Red Sox community, but to the baseball community as well. I really enjoyed his broadcast over the years on Nessa. Of course, I know his role has been diminished over the last few years. Of course, it's Dave O'Brien, who still does work with ESPN, but he's the Red Sox TV announcer for the regular season. He does a great job, not only with Remy, but one-time Red Sox Dennis Eckersley, who's really been stepping up on that broadcast the last few years.
Yeah, and I saw Ella Duncan, who of course does a great job on ESPN and the Sports Center. She worked with him for a few years over at Neston, and I'll see all these people. He was just a very fun, just a fun guy, and also to a great analyst. So he's definitely going to be missing in Neston, and for that the whole Boston, Red Sox community, and also to the baseball community. So he will be missed.
Yes, peace and love to the Jerry Remy family and the Boston Red Sox organization family there for this upcoming challenging time. Lakeena, before we get up out of here, do the Atlanta Braves wrap it up not tonight? Do they wrap it up tomorrow night, or does Houston force a 7th game?
I think it goes 7.
Okay,
I think it goes 7.
Yeah, I had Atlanta in 7, so I'm right on track with my prediction. If they don't get it done tomorrow night, I just don't see how they can get it done in a game 7 with all that pressure, especially after holding a 3-1 lead. When we get back with you guys on the Friday, the World Series and then the 2021 baseball season will be over. And so we'll start talking some hot stove baseball. Hopefully we won't have to have a long work stoppage should there be one, but we'll see what happens with that. And shout out to our good friend Armando. He says, "Go Braves." I'm with you there, brother. I had Atlanta in 7, and hopefully my prediction will come true, as most of America will be rooting for the Braves. Lakeena, that's it for today's show. Great job. Take us home.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. And make sure you tune into Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app, and make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, on War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Type in those search engine boxes, WARR or Anchor, and follow the guys at War Media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WAR Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. So you guys stay warm out there. Also to enjoy all the games, some great games coming up this week, in both the NBA and, hopefully maybe the World Series. It's going to wrap up this week. Also to the NHL too. Shout out to the folks in the NHL. So that's it.
Will the Hawks win the game by the time we come back on Friday? I say no.
No. I'm gonna pay no mind for the Blackhawks right now. I'm kind of like in that realm of, I'm not looking. I'll keep my eye on them, but I'm not looking at that right now. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Till Friday, holla.